you can make shots offensively. You got to be able to get stops down the stretch, especially when you're playing against teams that's been scoring. So we had to get stops, and we did that.
Brian, where you think this dude from, man?
I gotta say, focus. I'm locked in.
Hey, just running back for Dennis and Austin Avenue.
When I think of words to describe this Lakers 2023 season, the number one word that I keep coming back to is redemption. It's like after one bad season, everybody just counted out everybody on this team. Everybody counted LeBron out. Everybody was counting Anthony Davis out. All the role players on this team, the coaches, the coaching staff, the GMs. It just seemed like after one failed season, everybody just lost faith. And while the Lakers didn't win the championship this season, they still had one of the most interesting storylines and redemption stories in recent memory. And in this video, I kind of wanted to go through it, really emphasize how important this season was and how a team that started 2-10 in the regular season, missed the play in the previous season, ended up being a team that made it to Western Conference Finals. So without further ado, here's the redemption of the 2022-2023 Los Angeles Lakers. And this story obviously starts at the end of the 2021 season when the Lakers were bounced out in the first round by the Phoenix Suns. And in an attempt to improve the roster and add some more star power to the team, they ended up trading for Russell Westbrook. And I'm not going to get too deep into the whole Russell Westbrook saga in Los Angeles because it's been covered to death and it was just a complete disaster.
And the Lakers deserve a boatload of credit. Rob Pelinka, way to go in terms of assembling this and pulling this trade off. There will never have been more pressure on Russell Westbrook for this upcoming season. It almost makes it to a point where it might be, we might all need to be medicated for depression if we don't get this final.
Long story short, Russell Westbrook was terrible in Los Angeles in that first season that he played there. The fit between him, LeBron, and Anthony Davis was horrible. It was very easily the worst season of Russell Westbrook's career.
Russ is what he is. He's an inefficient, ball-dominant, turnover machine. So stop this. Stop saying we need Russ to be Russ because you saw Russ being Russ last night and you saw what he got you, a quadruple double, but in the worst way.
In the worst way.
10 turnovers?
10 more turnovers.
This is not Russell Westbrook 8 years ago. This is not LeBron 8 years ago. This is not pre-injury for Kevin Durant.
The Lakers this season finished 33-49. They were 11th in points per game, 28th in opponents' points per game, which made them one of the worst defensive teams in the league, and below average on offense and defense. The team never really built any real chemistry. Players were in and out of the lineup, and this was evident with guys like Anthony Davis only playing 40 games that season, and it's showing in his numbers as he only averaged 23, 9, and 2 blocks per game. While defensively, AD was still really solid, but offensively, he fell off a cliff compared to where he was in 2020. And like I mentioned before, Russell Westbrook was horrible, only averaging 18, 7, and 7, which on paper are good stats, but with the context of the amount of terrible plays that he had, his low light compilations, and just his overall effect on this Lakers team, it was a pretty bad season, let's be honest. The only real bright spot for the Lakers this season was LeBron, as he averaged 30 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists on some pretty good efficiency. He had some notable performances also, and he was doing this at 37 years old, which is just unprecedented. And during that offseason, nothing major really happened. I mean, the Lakers signed Lonnie Walker, they signed Troy Brown Jr., they traded for Patrick Beverley and re-signed Dennis Schroeder, but the one thing that everybody expected them to do, which was trade Russ, they never did up until later on in the story, mainly due to Russ's contract. I mean, Russ was making upwards of nearly $50 million a year, and you could probably count on one hand the amount of teams that would have probably taken on that contract. And the start to the next season was pretty similar to the last. LeBron was putting up abnormally great offensive stats. Anthony Davis was in and out of the lineup, and the Lakers supporting cast just wasn't really that great. And funny enough, the Lakers wouldn't even get their first win up until I think the 7th game of the season, and would go 2-10 in their first 12 games. Throughout the season, everybody knew the Lakers had to make moves, especially at the trade deadline, but with the pick situation and the Russell Westbrook contract, nobody really had any real expectations of the Lakers getting a star, especially given how broken the trade market was around that time with Rudy Gobert's trade, Donovan Mitchell's trade, DeJounte Murray's trade. Even when Kyrie Irving became available for trade from the Brooklyn Nets, the Lakers just simply couldn't give up enough to get Kyrie. Their two best assets, which were those 2027 and 2029 first round picks, they were way too far in the future for the Nets to even care and take those into consideration. And now it's February, the Lakers are 25-30, it's looking like they're gonna miss the playoffs once again, and at the trade deadline, everyone was gone. Russ was out of there, Patrick Beverley was was out of there. Juan Toscano-Anderson was out. Like, all these role players that weren't doing anything, they were gone. And what I think the Lakers finally realized is that they couldn't package Russell Westbrook in a deal for a star player, so they just ultimately decided to fill the roster out with quality pieces like D'Angelo Russell, like Jared Vanderbilt, like Malik Beasley. All these guys that would be perfect next to LeBron and AD and who could produce on both sides of the ball. This also made more room for Austin Reeves in the rotation, as he was now a starter and he went off afterwards. What all these moves did for the Lakers is they made them much younger, it improved them collectively as a unit, and it made more offense around LeBron and AD. They got to clear more cap space with Russell Westbrook's contract being off the books, and it also brought in some more floor spacing as the offense was less awkward without Russ there. Guys like D'Lo, Beasley, and Reeves, perfect players to put around LeBron James. LeBron is very known to be a drive and kick type of player. He loves having shooters around him. All those guys can shoot. And after this trade deadline, the Lakers just looked completely revived as they went 18-9, being the best team in the entire league after the trade deadline. And some standout players during this time was Austin Reeves, as his production shot up to 16 points per game on 58, 46, 84 splits, and this is during a 29 game sample size. D'Angelo Russell kind of became the third scorer for this team, averaging 17 and 6 on 48, 42 splits, and he also kind of took the secondary playmaker role after LeBron James and became a source of offense for this team when LeBron and AD weren't on the floor. And Jared Vanderbilt was the perfect plug-in type of player to add to this defensive unit. Him and Anthony Davis on the floor together was just completely unstoppable. They were dominant defensively. Before the trade deadline, the Lakers relied so much on Anthony Davis to clean up their mistakes defensively, whether that be guys getting blown by in the pick and roll, having to help too much, which leads him to leave his guy open, and adding Vanderbilt to this team added way more versatility and another great player on this defensive personnel. He could guard 1 through 5 if you wanted him to. He was a great roamer. He could play a lot of help. Anything you wanted him to do defensively, he could do it. And another piece that the Lakers added was Rui Hachimura, who ended up emerging as a really good scorer off the bench and eventually worked his way up, ending up as a starter on this team. And another thing that I noticed during this run is that the Lakers played really well without LeBron when he was dealing with his foot injury, which is something that you really don't see often with LeBron-led teams. Usually LeBron-led teams are so dependent on him to the point where it's like they can't function on their own. But to me, the clear difference is that a lot of the guys in this team could create for themselves if needed. The team would end up going 9-7 without LeBron, which is better than most LeBron-led teams. And this momentum ended up carrying into the play-in tournament where they beat the Minnesota Timberwolves and advanced to a 7 seed and faced the Memphis Grizzlies in the first round. And the Lakers ended up handling Memphis as they took advantage of the lack of physicality on Memphis's end due to Steven Adams and Brandon Clark being out. And in this series, they had 5 players averaging double figures. They played amazing defense as Anthony Davis averaged 4.3 blocks per game in this series, and they were able to contain Ja Morant and Desmond Bane as both shot below average from the field. Not to mention how well some of their role players played in this series, like I mentioned before, Vanderbilt, how great he was defensively, how great Austin Reeves was in the clutch, and just overall in this series being a great source of offense, and Rui stepping up offensively as well helped this team a lot. Also, not to mention the whole Dillon Brooks thing kind of put a battery in their back to really take care of business in this one. So I would say this was an impressive series from the Lakers. And on to round 2 versus Golden State. Once again, the Lakers had multiple players averaging double figures, as this time they had 6 players, and Anthony Davis was dominant once again as the defensive rating for this Lakers team was 111.6. He averaged 2 blocks and 1 steal per game, and in this one Anthony Davis was doing a really good job playing help defense. And once again, some important role players stepped up in this series like Jared Vanderbilt, Austin Reeves, Dennis Schroeder, and Lonnie Walker, who had a very clutch fourth quarter in game 4, putting up 15 points. And this one caught me by surprise because it literally felt like the dude just came out of nowhere. He was on the bench for a majority of the season, especially after that rough patch that the Lakers hit in the middle of the regular season, and he just came in clutch out of nowhere. And in the conference finals, I mean, the Lakers were just simply outmatched. They couldn't stop the 2-man game between Jokic and Murray. Jamal Murray ended up averaging like 32 points, Jokic 28, 14, and 12. They didn't shoot the greatest offensively as LeBron had a horrible offensive series from 3, and they were kind of forced to put Anthony Davis on Nikola Jokic, and even then that didn't really do much. LeBron, AD, Reeves, and Rui all played well offensively, but D'Lo just completely disappeared. Vanderbilt couldn't play due to his offensive limitations, and Lonnie Walker was pretty inefficient. But what I do find impressive about this series is that LeBron averaged a damn near 28-point triple-double on an injured foot that he had been dealing with ever since the regular season. averaging 28, 9, and 10 on 52% from the field. And a lot of people give the Lakers criticism for losing this series and getting swept in the fashion that they did. And to those people, I'll just say this. The Lakers were never supposed to be in this position in the first place. They were a playing team that was dealing with injuries all season long, who weren't expected to go this far after making all those moves at the trade deadline, and they were miraculously able to build chemistry and get the most out of their guys. And this is one of the first LeBron-led teams that I've seen personally that was able to keep their heads above water without him. That's something that you don't see that often. And if the Lakers are able to bring everybody back and run it back with this same team, bearing any injuries, bro, I think this team would make it to the finals. I'm not going to discount Denver, but I just think that this team has that potential in them. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button. Let me know your thoughts on the Lakers season and what you think that they'll do in this offseason and things of that nature. Leave that all down in the comments below. If you want to see more videos like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button also. We're like a couple subscribers away from 500. That's a very big milestone. So yeah, if you enjoy this content, make sure to hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel. But yeah, man, more videos will be on the way soon, and I'm out. Peace.